I would say that I'm one of the super users, and I constantly tell people my experience at Intellect. Hi, I'm Willis, CEO and founder at Tech in Asia. So we're on a mission to build and serve the tech ecosystem in Asia. So at Tech in Asia, we are highly flexible, transparent. Some of our core values include like teamwork, trustworthiness, sense of excellence. In terms of like transparency, we're very big on that. For example, we trust that people know when to work, know when to take a break. We also share whatever information that we shared with our shareholders, with the entire team on a monthly town hall. So during the pandemic, I think it was a little bit of a struggle, mainly because I think people were quite cooped up at home, right? Where the regulations didn't allow people to go to the office, which means that people who used to connect, they couldn't. And those people who joined us during the pandemic, they couldn't quite get that full onboarding experience with Tech in Asia. So in that sense, I think it was very challenging to really get that human touch. And sometimes like the virtual calls, right? Even if we have very regular one-on-ones, just not enough, right? To actually build that human bond. Sometimes some of the things, right, it stems not just from work, right? When it comes to work, you can actually talk to your manager, your colleagues, even virtually, it tends to help, right? But when people work from home, sometimes things kind of like mash up together and the lines kind of blur, right? So is that considered work or is that considered life? So I think that's when like we start to see, we do like a regular culture survey where people start to request, like, hey, can I actually speak with a coach? Can I actually get like third-party outside help from an expert? So that's when we start to look into a different solution where we offer our team members a different outlet, right? Where they get professional help, right? Where everybody can feel very open that they actually have a coach and feel that it actually helps them progress not just like at work, but also in life. Prior to Intellect, I think we really rely on like our managers to regularly reach out to our team members. And in that sense, during our one-on-one, we don't just talk about work, but we also talk about life and how life is affecting work and vice versa, right? So that was actually very useful, especially in a one-to-one and a face-to-face context, right? But I think that was pretty much like the only assistance that we provide for our team members. When I first saw the demo of Intellect, I think there's several things that caught my attention. I think the first one is that the Intellect actually offers like a very easy onboarding where they can actually select several big themes of things that people can self-help, right? So that's one. And the second thing that strikes out is that if you can't find something that actually suits you, that is under the self-help section, you can actually look for a coach. And under the coach, you can see what the coach specializes in. And that really helps in terms of like finding the right person to connect with. Implementing Intellect was definitely very easy because the team and the customer service was really good. And we actually get like proper onboarding, and it's really nice that the founder himself, right, came down and also like talked to our team members. So that really helps in terms of like giving very good onboarding. And of course, like things do not just like lay off from there. And we were given very, I would say, concise and clear guidelines on how to basically get the organization to actually adopt Intellect. So one of the things that the tip that I use is the leaders have to lead by example. So I would say that I'm one of the super users, and I constantly tell people my experience at Intellect. And that really helps people to feel that, hey, it's like if Willis is actually using Intellect, then it's actually okay that I use it as well, and there's no judgment, there's no fear that like you're being tracked, and if you use it, you have some problem of that sort, right? So I think leading by example, right, it's actually super important. So we have a high level of engagement, mostly because I think the leaders try it themselves, they lead by example, and they share very candid feedback on like how Intellect has helped. So even in my town hall, I was also very candid on like what are the things that I learned when I spoke with my coach Xiaoling, and it was really helpful. So from there, it really helped to trigger, right, a virtual cycle, right, where people lead by example, and then they also start to like take on their own action. And when the feedback is good, I think the word of mouth spreads within the organization, and that really helps in terms of engagement. After using Intellect for several months, our employees are pretty happy with Intellect, in a sense where I think the most of the feedback surrounds on like how the coach has actually helped them to give them like different perspective on how to basically shape their life. So give you one example, right, whereby a team member used to feel that like he just doesn't have enough time to basically block off to do really deep work because there's endless virtual calls, right? So the coach actually advised like, why don't you block off some time, make it very clear on a calendar where these are times where you're doing and engaging deep work. So I actually benefited from the same advice as well. And these are some of the things whereby we also share with other leaders. These shows like how one piece of advice from a coach can really cut throughout the organization, where it really helps like leaders and also team members to really benefit from like just one piece of really good advice. Other business leaders who are considering Intellect, I would say that first you really have to be very clear of like what's the agenda. If the agenda is to just tell your shareholders or your stakeholders that you're using Intellect as a mental well-being, just to check a checkbox, I think that's the wrong approach, right? Second of all is that I think the management team has to really fully on board, which means that you don't just like subscribe to it, but actually use it, talk about it, and give very candid feedback on like how Intellect can actually help you. Because I think that's one of the best ways where leaders can inspire action. So to create a safe environment for our managers, I think again going back to leading by examples, right? So I think 2 points. First of all, lead by example, which means that like sometimes when people do not feel safe, is because they can't voice out what they truly think. They can't act based on like the data that they found, and they do not have like autonomy to take action, right? So I think from my humble point of view is that take for instance, if I'm wrong, then I need to really stand up and admit that, wow, actually this is a really good debate, you are right, I stand corrected, and we move on, without actually burning any bridges or the person feeling threatened whereby they angered me in that sense, right? So having consistently building up this kind of like camaraderie, I would say, actually really helps people to know that, okay, this leader is actually very okay in terms of like getting his ideas poked, or challenged, right? Because I think that's where best ideas actually come about. I think the second of all is that sometimes when leaders are humans after all, and when we are feeling down, it's actually quite telling from your body language or facial expression, even through a Zoom call. So it's sometimes a very human thing if you could just like talk it out loud, what are the problems that you are facing, and sometimes you'll be actually surprised that like the person truly understand where you're coming from, and from that conversation, because you are being candid and vulnerable, it actually inspire like new solution and new perspective.